What we now have is a global underclass of young, stupid, undereducated men. In 20-25 years' time, this planet will be 600 cities, not 200 countries. Let me be honest here, and let me be blunt and honest. What we see here is not only an urbanization, where we go from 200 countries to 600 cities. But if you start to analyze what is happening in the cities, you can see a power shift. And that power shift is from men to women. Women study all around the world. Even in Iran, even in Tehran, you go to Morocco, women study. You go to Abu Dhabi, women study. You go to Scandinavia or Russia, women study. Men don't. What we now have is a global underclass of young, stupid, undereducated men, urban men, that are looking for meaning. This meaning can be provided by Hells Angels, ISIS, or any other organization that can offer you something that gives you a meaning. So what we see is not only a power shift from countries to cities, it's also from men to women in the cities.
I'm now joined by Swedish economist and best-selling author Kjell Nordstrom. Dr. Nordstrom, thank you very much for your time.
Morning. I think globalization is really the outcome of human curiosity. The fact that we do science, and ultimately I think globalization has nothing to do with anything else than science and pure science. In a Marxist sense, there is always a class structure in the world, in the sense that there are some people that are a little bit more rich than others. An idea, a person with a good idea, could actually change the world today, which you can. If you look at Facebook, if you look at Google, but you can look at Alibaba in China. It's not only about the US, it's not only about Europe. What we have done now is that we have set things free in a way that I think is unique in human history. Life is actually moving out of the framework. What is happening now, if we zoom out and look at the planet from an outside perspective, you can see something, and you see it nighttime. You can see that this is not a planet of countries, this is not Russia, this is a planet of cities, where the cities completely dominate the planet. Russia is a collection of cities rather than anything else. In 20-25 years' time, this planet will be 600 cities, not 200 countries. You and I and our leaders and the United Nations are trained to think in terms of countries. But that's not the case. We fight yesterday's war. Yesterday's war is between nations. But today, life, I'm talking about practical daily life of young people here in Moscow or in Libya or in London, is actually a place where the city and where globalization is more important than the nation state. Our leaders are stuck within the framework of the nation state. We will have to live with that, I guess, for 10, 15, maybe even 20 or 25 years. But slowly, when people start to move out of that framework, value creation move out of that framework, our planet is a huge success. We live longer than ever. A girl born now somewhere in the world, here in Russia or anywhere else, has a 50% chance to achieve the age of 100. Unbelievable success in terms of longevity.
Primarily in the Western world, though. I mean, it's limited.
Actually, it is Ethiopia included, Pakistan included, India included. I'm talking about the world. A 50% chance to achieve the age of 100. It's an unbelievable medical success as of today. So that's number one. Number two, we had 18 democracies on planet Earth, 1946. We are approaching 135, 40 now. It's unbelievable what we have achieved in 60 years. But keep in mind, we have never been healthier today. We have never been living longer than today, all around the world, Africa included. I think we should keep that in mind.
How do you stop backwardness from preying on modernity? Nevertheless, there is this thinking that the more countries trade with one another, the more interdependent they are, the less likely they are to fight.
Now, all the wealth that we are surrounded by, all the wealth that we are surrounded by, you can derive back to only one thing, namely work specialization. You do the champagne, I do the caviar, and then we trade. This we have been doing for about 2,000 years. We have increased the specialization. Globalization is an extreme case of specialization. There is huge specialization. If you choose to break out of that specialization, which means that you and I start to bake our bread in the morning.
And this is exactly what is happening between Russia and Europe.
Exactly. But it's a bad idea for Russia, it's a bad idea for Europe, it's a bad idea for anyone, which means that we won't do it.
But
we will back down. Both of us. Anyone will do, because the price that you pay when you break out of work specialization in your small life, I'm talking about baking the bread in the morning, or the big life, making your own jetliners, making your own everything, oh, it's too high. And you know what? We human beings, we like to get things, but we don't like to lose them. If you leave globalization, if you break out of globalization, Russia, Europe, the US, anyone, there will be a price to be paid for single human beings and for the country. However, there is a change from when you and I were studying when we went to school, in the sense that we have made the world a transparent place. Whether we like it or not, it's pretty transparent today. And you can basically not undo that. Undo in the sense that you can wind it up today. A mobile phone is more powerful than a Kalashnikov. Globalization is good news if you look at it from an overall perspective. Globalization, work specialization, what we talked about earlier, that's the good news. Here comes the bad news. The bad news is that we go from homogeneity, some kind of homogeneity, to heterogeneity. When you do that, there is a loss of trust. Loss of trust. So what we have now, today, I think all around the world, is a crisis of trust. Because of globalization. We pay a price. There is always a price. And the price for globalization is loss of trust.
I guess my question to you is how you can, again, make sure that this backwardness, ideological backwardness or emotional backwardness does not prey on modernity, because you're the priest, the advocate of modernity, and yet modernity in the hands of very backward people could be an extremely dangerous thing, and it could be the end for the planet that you think that is doing so great.
I think the deal as of today is that there are a couple of ideas traveling the world today that are so powerful, so competitive, and provide such good results in terms of life quality, not at least for women, in those 600 cities around the world, that ISIS is not a choice. ISIS is not an alternative for 50% of the world population, namely women, in Hong Kong, in Tokyo, in Sydney.
ISIS is not asking them for permission. I mean, they keep spreading their ideology, and those women in Syria or in Iraq that may be very well educated, that may be very well liberal, they don't have a choice of whether they want to live under ISIS or not.
That is true. But keep in mind here that we have no evidence whatsoever in human history that hierarchical, centrally controlled organizations can do innovation. Innovation is something that you do in a network. However, Hells Angels is not an innovative organization. Google is. Which means there will always be a difference, because an open network is always more innovative than a strict hierarchy, which means that the open network will beat the hierarchy. And that is, as of today, where we are.
Well, Dr. Nordstrom, I really hope you're right. This would be paramount for the survival of humanity.